Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in Salesforce Apex Hour. Today we are going to talk about the treasure hunt from the latest release, and we have the Daryl with us. So let me hand over him for his introduction and for that session.
Well, thank you very much, Amit. And it's nice to be back on Apex Hours again, talking about some new features in Salesforce Spring 25. Now, we don't have any release notes yet, so that's why I always call it a treasure hunt. It's a bit of a hunt to try to find out what the new features are. And some of the sources that I use for that is I go through the um, idea exchange and I have a look there at ideas that are under development. There's also a new section on the idea exchange where they've got a roadmap. That's right, a new roadmap section, and so there's some information on there that I use as well. And then what I do is I jump into a pre-release org that I've got, and I believe you can sign up for them as of today or maybe tomorrow. So if you don't have a pre-release, and once you've got one, you want to keep it because every time there's a new release comes out, it automatically gets updated way before the preview org and the sandboxes and so on. So it's a pre-release. That's what you want if you want to get in on this treasure hunt. But let's have a look at the very first option that's available. And I'm doing these based on the popularity of the posts that I made about the treasure hunt. Now, the first one are features for general Salesforce administration. And the first one is on a permission set or on a profile. And it's about, so let's have a look at permission sets. It's about viewing all fields. Now,
Well, are you sharing the screen?
oh, sorry, okay, now we should be sharing. Hopefully we're sharing the permission set screen.
Yep.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I've got a sample permission set here. Now this is a custom one, so we can make changes to this one. And in the object settings, we've now got this new option. So let's select an object like accounts. So this is the new option here is view all fields. So if we go into edit mode on this permission set, and we can do this on a profile as well. But of course, we're moving everything to permission sets. This is the best place to do it. View all fields. Now, when we check that box, what happens is read only gets set for every field on the object. So that's one nice thing. And you might say, well, why don't you just tick that? Well, the difference here is that if I create some new fields on this object, they'll automatically have read-only access for this profile. Okay, so this is perfect for setting for your admin user profile or permission set that the admin users got applied to it. And also somebody raised this on one of my posts, if you have a permission set for your backup user. Otherwise, what could happen is if you have a developer adds a new field to one of your objects and the permission set or profile or wherever for your backup user is not updated to be able to view that field, then your backups will run but never back up that field. So this is sort of just a bit of extra guarantee that they can always read that field. Okay, so view all fields available on permission sets and on profiles, really handy for your admin profile and your backup user. Of course, it's also a risk that this is going to show all fields to a Salesforce user that you might not want them to be able to view. So just be careful with your regular users, but a good one for your admin and your backup profiles. Okay, now the next one is also around permission sets, and they've now got proper list views. So you can see here now we can choose different list views. So we can have, and there's a little bug in this that it seems to pop up. but I'm sure they'll fix that when it's live in production environments. So you can switch views, you can pin views, you can select the fields, you can clone it, rename it, share it, etc. You can apply filters to it. Okay, the only thing that you don't seem to be able to do in here is to do any inline editing. Okay, and that may only be because there are no fields in a permission set that you can easily edit. Okay, so that's a nice one on permission sets. Now, one thing is that you need to turn this one on, and I should have mentioned that. So we need to go to user management settings and scroll down to the bottom here. We've got enhance permission set list view. So you need to turn that on. So you need to enable that one. And the next one we're going to look at, or in a minute, will be the similar one for roles. And you need to turn that one on as well. You've probably already done the user list view because we did that, I think, in the previous release of Salesforce, but these are the two new ones. So make sure you enable those to be able to view them. Okay, so the next one's in Object Manager. So there's another couple of objects that have gotten some love. Work order, and this will please some people. Work order and work order line item. Now are based on LWC, so Lightning Web Components, and they support all of the dynamic things. So dynamic forms, dynamic actions, dynamic related list, dynamic highlights panel. If we have a look at the Lightning record page, you'll see what I mean. Now, when you're looking to see whether or not an object has been updated to support these dynamic features, one of the quick and easy places to look to see is right here for this one, dynamic related list single. If it hasn't got that, then the object's not yet been updated to Lightning Web Components, and there's also some user interface stuff that needs to be done as well. But the work order and the work order line items have now been done. So, for example, this is a dynamic highlights panel. The other thing is that you'll see these fields here. So it's you'll see that the page, going to page details, you'll see that it's a dynamic form. Okay, so we've got different sections on the page. So you can see it's not the old page layout. Otherwise, it would say page layout here. Fields, here we've got our dynamic highlights panel. So this replaces the old highlights up the top, and this one's been removed and now is using the dynamic highlights panel. Means that you've got some extra fields available up here as well. You can go up to 12. It's got dynamic actions up on the top right. What were the other dynamic? And dynamic forms and dynamic related lists. Okay, so on the related lists here, if we go back to components, we've got dynamic related lists. So this one here, it'll show up on the top right is a dynamic related list, a single one. Okay. And of course, you can select the fields that you want, and you can select the sort order, etc., on those as well. And you can also select what action buttons you have in the list view as well. And you can apply component visibility to it as well. So it's got all the nice features that dynamic forms brings with it. Okay, so that's on both work orders and work order line items. Now, some of the other objects haven't made the grade yet, and they are, and I know people are stressing about this one, campaigns and campaign members. That was due, I think, one release ago, or although they say it's going to be a multi-release project that to get that one done. And events and tasks still haven't been done yet, but I think they're coming soon. And opportunity products is another one. So there may be some other smaller ones, but those are probably the key ones that we're still sort of sweating on those a bit as well. Okay, another popular feature was the new okay, when you create a new user account, they by default get a standard email. And I don't know why they put it here, but they put it under session settings. And there's a section at the bottom here of the new users. So there's your normal session settings. It's got a whole bunch of things like timeout values and stuff like that. But right down the very bottom is the bit that we want, is this new user welcome email settings. Okay. So you can set the amount of time that the verification link in the email is valid for. So 7 days, 1 day, or 180 days are your choices. And you can specify a welcome email template. And when you click on this link, it will give you access to both the classic and the Lightning email templates as well. So if you don't create a template, as it tells you when you hover over here, if you don't create one, it'll just send you the standard Salesforce default welcome email to the new user. Otherwise, you can actually create your own template and pop that in there. Okay, so that's a nice new feature, personalize it a bit for your new users. While we're talking about users, the list view for users has been enhanced a little bit as well, in that we've got inline editing on some fields. Okay, so it depends what the fields are. There are some inline editing capabilities as well as all the standard things that you can do with list views, refresh, filter, etc. Okay, the next one was roles. So roles have also got list views. Except you'll notice that, now there doesn't seem to be any, oh yes, you can do inline editing there as well on some of those fields. Yeah. So this one's, you can actually edit that. You can change who they report to, but you'll notice that we've lost the tree view. So if that tree view is really important to you, then back in that user management settings, maybe you don't want to check this one for the roles, and you maybe want to keep the old format. I'm hoping that perhaps in the next release, we might have the option for that tree view, because that's pretty handy on roles. We might be able to get that back. Okay, so it's just one advantage that. And remember, to be able to see these list views for roles, you need to turn that on in that user management settings down here, and that was the roles one. But if you want to keep your tree view, you can turn that off. And then when you go back to roles, you'll see what I mean about the tree view. Okay, so this is your tree view, and if you expand all that, you get to see everybody there in that view. Okay. Right, so that's all the admin ones that I've been able to find. Look, there are more. There's some keyboard shortcuts and there's some other things as well, but without the release notes, it's a bit hard to sort of guide you a bit on that. And the release notes, I understand, are coming out on the 31st of December. So instead of going out and partying New Year, I expect that you'll be reading the, 400 pages of release notes like everybody else would be doing. Maybe. Okay. Let's have a look now at flows. And I've got half a dozen features here, new features for flows. And we'll start with the first one. And let's just go new flow for this one. Now, there is a new flow user experience, which I'll show you in a minute. But for now, if you do a new flow from here, you still got this start from scratch or use a template option, which is a pain in the butt. I don't know why they ever did that. Anyway, so we want to create a simple screen flow. And the one I want to show you is a get records. So it has a nice new feature. So when we're getting records, say we're getting some account records, sometimes we don't want all the records. We might only want 10 or 20 records. And we might not be able to filter them down to, get just the ones that we want. So what we can do here is we can now set how many records that we're actually going to store. So we can say, well, we only want 10. Excuse me. Or you only want 5 records, right? Before you only had the choice of just the first record. or all records. Okay, so now you've got a choice. So you can set a number of records, and you might say, yes, but we had a sort and trim sort of feature in the sort option sort element before. Yes, but by that stage you've already exceeded your governor limits, right? Because you've got too many records and now you're trying to sort them. So you're better off only get the number that you want. Okay, so this is a good option. So if you're able to limit the number of records that you're getting, then it's also going to reduce the complexity of your flow and the amount of resources that your flow is using as well. Okay, so that's a popular one. Next one is send email with attachments. We won't finish filling out that one for now. So we've got the action, we've got the send email action. It's been enhanced. So a lot of people might be using a custom send email, like send better email, that's got extra features. But some organizations, you're not allowed to install third-party apps or apps from the App Exchange. So this is now built in, and we've now got the option of including an attachment. So when we select this, read the help. Always read the help on this if you're not sure, because it does say attachment ID. What exactly does that mean? It means a comma. It's optional to start with, a comma delimited list of attachment IDs in the email. So that means something like, and these are IDs of records, but for example, 001 would be an account, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, comma, and then another one, comma, another one. Notice there are no spaces allowed. Okay, I've tried it and got errors and discovered that, okay, you're not allowed to have any spaces there, either side of the comma. It doesn't take a collection at this stage. Maybe in the later version it will. So at the moment, it is simply just a comma delimited set of IDs. Now you might have to build that, or if you've only got one, you could just key it in, of course, which is the ID of a, now let me just double check and get the exact thing right. It's the ID of a content version. Okay, so it's a file, but it's content version that you need to do. Now, obviously typing in IDs here of a content version is not real best practice. So what you would do is you would do a get records first to get the ID of that file that you want. Okay, so you do your get records to get the ID of the file, and then you can pop it in here. If you get back multiple files, then you're going to have a little loop, and you're going to have to build the string that you're going to have with ID of the first one, comma, ID of the second one, comma, ID of the third one, etc. Okay, and remember, no spaces allowed in there. Okay, all the rest of the send email is as per normal before. Immediate input validation on a screen flow. Let's just leave that one for now. And I think I've got one that I created earlier with the validation. Here we go, validation immediately. Let's have a look, see what that looks like. So instead of having to wait until you move out of that field or hit next, we've now got immediate validation. So we've set validation on this one. So if we go over here to the right-hand side and look at validate the input. So we said length must be 3 or more characters. That's just the message, but the actual validation, we're saying length of the field color must be greater than 3. So there's our field called color must be greater than 3. Okay, fine. Let's run that and just see what it looks like. Okay, so no error message yet. Okay, so now we're getting that error message, even though we're not finished typing yet, but it's telling us, hey, it's got to be 3 or more characters. So we want to color with 3 or more. Maybe reddish will work, and there you go. Okay, so it's immediately providing you, so it must be 3 or more. It's immediately providing you that input. I think in the formula I said greater than 3, so my mistake. Anyway, if we hit Reddish, if we type Reddish, then that's acceptable. Okay, while we're here, won't work for that flow. We'll just find another flow with multiple versions, and I'll just show you how we can now see multiple versions. Maybe this one might have it. Okay, so you can see that this flow is up to version 5. And if I want to go back and have a look at, oh, okay, what was version 3 or what was the previous one, then you can. And you can open that in, as you can see, it opens in a new tab. And so now you can do a side-by-side comparison. And you can see, okay, what's the difference between those two? Okay, besides one's activated, one's not. Okay, so that's the progress indicator. It doesn't do an internal comparison of the actual flow for you. You have to do that yourself, or maybe you've got to set up your screen and set them, two side by side, so that then you can go through and open elements and compare. But it does let you quickly open the previous version to see maybe some simple changes that you did. Okay, so that's a popular one as well, being able to open different flow versions from the canvas. This one is the progress indicator. Okay, we'll have a look at this one, the progress indicator, and then we'll go back to the last one, which is the new flow experience. Okay, so the progress indicator, let's open this first screen and have a look at. Okay, so the progress indicator is this one up the top here. So when you've got a complex screen flow with many steps to go through, it's a good idea to provide the end user with something to show them where you're at. Okay, so you're at stage 1 or you're at stage 2 or 3 or 4. Okay, how far have you progressed through in this particular flow? Now, there are third-party apps for this in the App Exchange, but as I said earlier, not everybody's company policy or security policy perhaps permits them to be able to use those applications. So it's nice that some of these things are coming into the core product as well. Now, there's a couple of different variations on what it can look like as well, 3 different variations. So it can look like the path up the top here. There's another one
What is the
where,
element name of it? It's a progress indicator, right?
yeah, progress indicator. Yeah. And it's a bit tricky, this one, because it's only when you get to save that you actually get to see it. And it's down here in advanced, down here in the progress indicator. So here's where you select it, and here's where you say to show it, show a progress indicator on the screen. Okay. So if you don't tick that, I think that might be ticked by default. So if you see it there and you don't want it, you can just untick it. And then this little icon or this little image on the right hand side just shows you, okay, what different types does it look like? So path or just a simple bar at the top, and this circle moves across to show you you're at stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or you can have that at the bottom in a footer. Okay, so you're going to have whichever one that you like there. Path. If we stick with the path, yeah, so that's where you configure it, which is a bit weird. I would have thought that you would have just selected it in here and gone in to configure it, but no, there is no configuration, sorry, in here, but you can't actually click on it. You can't actually select it in there. So it's hidden away in that save settings. But let's have a look at what it actually looks like when we run it. Oh, what I'm doing here is I'm setting the new stage so that when we display the second screen, it will this will be highlighted. Okay, so it's just configuring that as the current stage. So we just have a look at that assignment and we just say the current stage, which is a variable, one of our flow variables, so our dollar flow okay, for the running flow, current stage, and we just set that equal to, and we set it equal to the option that we've chosen. One of the selected options. Okay, and likewise down here on the third one. Oh, sorry. That's a text value. Okay, so that is, where is it? Over here, yeah. So we configure these stages. So we go over to, okay, let me just recall how I did this. New resource. Ah, yes. It's a resource type called stage. Here we are, go down here. And this is where you give it a label and you can set the order, whether it's the first, second, third, whatever, and you make it active. Okay, so I've set those stages as, right, so the first one is get info stage, the second one is select options, and then the third one is submit. Now, it doesn't make much sense until we actually see it run, but this one, number 2, is select options. So number 1 is already set, second one is set options, and then the third one is, that one is set to submit. So when we run this flow, you'll see what it does. Okay, so at the moment it's at get info. So we're recording details about an accident. An accident occurred at 45 Main Road. Date of the accident was today, and 2 cars collided. Okay, am I finished recording my details? Obviously not, because I'm only at this stage. So I've got that indicator that there's more to come. Now I've got some options I've got to select. It was moderate. There were 2 people involved, and yes, we need an ambulance. So you can see we've now moved across to the next stage. And then finally, we're at the end, and we've set that as the submit stage. Okay, so that's how that progress indicator works. And then we're back at the end, back at the start again. Okay, so that's our new progress indicator. And if we changed it, we just have a quick look. Let's just switch that. And now let's do it down in the footer maybe. And we'll save and activate that and run that. And you'll see how it straight away switches it. Okay, run that. So you can see now the indicators down the bottom. Accident was today, da, 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 da. And you can see that it's moving across, but we don't have any indications of the name of the stages with this option. Okay, but you just see that that's moving across. Okay, and likewise, we could do it to the bottom as well. Okay, so it's fairly simple, but it does the job. Now, the last one is creating a new flow experience. So you might recall that there is an automation app. If you haven't moved it up in your app launcher, you'll have to go find it. It'll be a bit further down, but I've moved it up here. So we've got this automation app, and the idea of this is it's going to be the place that you go where you go to build your flows from. And the key thing here is that when you go new from within here, now there's a couple of nice things here is you can straight away see the progress stage of your flows. Okay, so you can see which ones are draft and which ones are activated and so forth. But when you go new, you get the new user experience for creating flows. That looks completely different. Okay, so it's much nicer than what we had before. So here you can go straight to, yes, I want to create a screen flow, or yes, I want a record triggered flow. And you've also got some frequently used ones here as well. And you've got the option too, if you're doing a screen flow, you've got some different options here as well. Okay, so you've got different types. So is it a user provisioning or a field service or just a standard screen flow? And then you've also got the templates down the bottom as well. Okay, so instead of being a pane and popping up in that original screen when you just want to just let me create a flow, templates are tucked down here as well. And there's a whole bunch of additional templates provided, as you can see there, by Salesforce. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of those that you can look at, but if you just want to go straight for a screen flow, then it just takes you in there. Okay, so that's the only bit that's different. It's just that user interface, just a bit nicer. I would have hoped that it would have come to here as well. So, sorry, when we're back in setup, back here at setup, and we're going new flow, I would like to see that user interface here as well to replace this. Okay, maybe we'll get that eventually. Okay, and so in terms of the treasure hunt, that's about as far as we've gotten so far. There is more stuff. There is things like reactive screen actions, and I've seen some of that demonstrated, but I don't have the release notes to guide me through to build a flow using that, so I wasn't confident enough to demonstrate that. There's a join option in a transform, in a flow. There's multi-column layouts and headers in repeating sections. So if you've used a repeating section in a flow before, you might remember that you couldn't use multiple columns in that. Well, now you can, and you can also use headers in that as well. What else have we got? There was mention about next generation approvals. Now, apparently you're going to be able to use flow orchestration for approval processes at no extra cost. But look, I haven't got enough detail about that to be really confident. Again, we haven't got the release note, so we're sort of guessing a little bit, but it looks like maybe part of flow orchestration, which is, if you remember orchestration, it's about taking a whole bunch of flows and basically joining them together to do one big long fairly complex process, which might be something like onboarding a new user, where you need to create maybe your Windows system admins need to create a user account for them and an email account, and then security needs to create them a pass for the building, and somebody else needs to provision them a laptop, and then you need to create a Salesforce account for them. So you have a whole bunch of flows that do all these different things, and you've got orchestration tying all that together. Now, that is a paid extra option, but by the sound of it is that instead of having to rebuild the approval process, which is getting a bit old, Salesforce has maybe taken the option that we're going to let you use flow orchestration for approval processes. But hey, no guarantees. It's not in concrete yet. Let's wait for the release notes to see that one. There's some keyboard shortcuts as well. Control C, Control Z, Control Y, that sort of stuff. There's some Einstein flow summarization stuff. As I say, not enough detail yet to demonstrate something properly. We'll have to wait for the release notes for that. But that's about all I've got for today. Any more questions from you? Anything that you've spotted that you want some more info on?
No, thank you so much. You covered pretty much most of them very well, so I don't have a specific question.
Okay, if we have any more features, make sure that people follow me on LinkedIn, is where I live when I'm not fishing. And as the release notes come out on the 31st, early in the new year, maybe I'll be able to explain a little bit more about some of these other features. And some of the features that I've already demonstrated today, we might be able to expand a little bit on those as well. Thank you, Amit, and thank you to those who are listening or watching this. And hopefully everybody has a good holiday season and we get some exciting stuff out of Spring 25.
Thank you so much, Daryl.
Okay, thank you.